Hey everybody, so today what we're going to focus on is pulling handles and trying a different exercise while we have time to really put in consideration into our handles. I know for most folks it takes a while to get the vision in your head into reality. So because we have some extra time, I thought I would show you generally on pulling handle, an exercise to consider when you're thinking about form, and just some general tips along the way. So the things you'll need today are a bucket of water. If you don't have a bucket, you can just use like a wide bowl that you don't care about getting clay on it. Just make sure it has a wider opening because it can be kind of messy. You'll probably want slip, a paintbrush, and a needle tool if you are actually going to apply these handles onto pieces. If you're just using this as an exercise, that's not entirely necessary. A towel that is close to you, just something kind of grubby that you also don't care about. Clay that is in a sort of like tapered triangular shape. It doesn't need to be this formed as mine. And either metal rib tool or a precision knife. It's gonna be a scalpel, maybe an X-Acto knife, fettling knife, whatever you have, as long as it's not super clunky. So I'm gonna show you pulling and some tips to keep your handles nice and crisp along the way, in addition to how you can consider your forms and your handles talking to each other. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take this wedge. You can either do like a smaller one this size where you might get a couple handles out of it and make several of those, or you can do a larger chunk that you just kind of keep pulling from. It sort of depends. I typically lean more towards having a large one and I can just kind of keep going on that one. But for today, this is sort of medium size. First thing I'm doing is just dipping my whole hand into the water. And my top part is going to remain dry so that my grip is super solid with my top hand. And the bottom half or third is just going to get coated in water. From here, I'm going to make a circular shape with my hand that's going to make contact with the whole side. So kind of like you're milking a cow, if you've ever done that. I think I did once when I was like 7, but you know, get that idea in your head. And you're just gonna pull down. As you're pulling down, you're slowly releasing your pressure. So if you're a wheel thrower, think of the same sort of pressure that as you're going from the bottom, moving that clay up towards the top, you're slowly easing off the pressure to guide it. It's that similar idea, while this is where you're gonna put the most pressure. And I am changing the direction. With this kind of shape, you might get some weird unevenness if you just go from one side. So kind of switch it up. Just keep in mind as you're going down to try to keep that as straight as possible. If you twist it one way and twist it the other way, the clay is going to hold that memory. And what might happen is, even if you put that handle straight at the end and you attach it at the end straight, it might twist in the firing. So if you've ever had the experience where you're like, I swear to God, I put that handle on straight, and then you got your piece and it wobbled one way, it's probably from the way that you pulled it. So make sure you're trying to keep it as straight as possible. If you like a more rounded, all the way rounded handle, just kind of keep going with this motion. I tend to like mine with more of like a wider flat top. So this is an example of one shape of handle I typically make. And to do so, I have my back finger rested on it and my top thumb, and I'm pulling down. And so I'm just kind of like going this motion. I'm gonna go the other way as well. But I would recommend, especially because this is more of just an experimenting time, to try some different motions. So you saw that last one that I made, I might want to try something a little wider. So I'm easing off the cupping, and I'm doing just a little bit more pressure with my top thumb to try to get a wider handle. Because we have so much more time on our hands with our making practice, I do want us to use this time as more of an exploratory moment instead of a production mode. We're all kind of waiting on kiln access and waiting on how things will turn out, so it's a great time to just collect data. If you get any kind of like, I don't have it here, but say like this part gets really thick, or if you went too hard and you have a flat spot, you can just chop that off and keep pulling down. So that's why it's nice to like give yourself some extra space to keep pulling it. And when you're adding water, you know, just drape it on there. You don't want to flood this with water because you don't want to get really floppy handles. Try to really pay attention too to the parts that are thicker. You can do the same like you would pulling, just kind of skimp over the thin spots and add a tiny bit more pressure on the thinner. Once you have your handle, I do have little bits that kind of like collect some extra clay. So what I'll do is have my finger really flat, and using the pad of my fingertip, I usually just kind of like drape some water to clean that up as much as possible. All right. I'm going to dab and have my hands as clean as possible before I adjust this and put it into the form of my handle. Having clean fingers while you do this is going to make your handles so much better. Now that it's here, I'm just going to flip it over gently so gravity is working its course. I squish down so that it stays in place, and then I can look at it from the side. So making sure that it is long enough, it's kind of working its angle, it's not too floppy. From here, then I cut it. So I personally like using my metal rib tool as the knife for this because it makes it a little easier for me to keep it leveled. So I'm just gonna go a little bit down farther than I think I need. I'm only gonna hold that base, and then I'm just gonna push through until it makes contact with my thumb. So it's like that. And then I can put it onto my table and just kind of first set it down. When you're playing with form and matching your sketches to your ideas, I recommend looking at it from the side. Make sure you can consider the negative space. And then when you're adjusting this, only touch the bottom parts. You don't want to glob up this top part because it's so clean and crisp right now. So say I want this one to be more of a traditional handle. I'm just going to bring it out and let it set up as close as possible to the form that I think I'll need. So that is the pulling stage. And then just so that we have kind of an exercise that operates like a sketch, I recommend trying different ways. So this is about the same length, but instead of going down, I folded it in, and it's almost like it is gonna be reversed. So the thicker part is at the bottom and the narrower part is gonna be at the top. So it'll look like that. Here is another example of one that might be more rounded, and I can always kind of cut this down and look at it. So while we're thinking about form and shape, I recommend you throw several different handles to try it. This is also a good way to kind of rehydrate some hard clay that you might have at home. Now that we have this, I would recommend you either have a form on hand that you are like, it's close to what you typically make, but maybe isn't perfect, so that you can practice with it. Today, I'm just gonna use a recycled soda can to kind of try to see how these forms might look on a straight, narrow cylinder. So then from here, you know, I can see, oh, this would be really awkward. You know, that doesn't work at all. So I can cut it down from there. And I find that it's nice to, at least the soda can helps it so that if you place it on there, it's not gonna stick and it's not gonna glob up a form. If you are using a clay form, I recommend using it to its fullest and attaching multiple handles onto it so you can kind of try different things without any stakes and then reclaim it. But now I can like kind of get to see what type of handle I might like. And again, we're not focused on having that like perfect trial. It takes doing something hundreds and hundreds of times before it's gonna land perfectly into your vision. So I would use, you know, time to just kind of see. This one reminds me a little bit more of like Sarah's handles on her taller forms. And once you like something well enough, you can just kind of press it on there. If you're using a form, I would recommend slipping and scoring it, letting it set up a little bit, and then you can see how it feels. So I'm like, oh, that would probably be too low on a form. I can just slide this on up. Oh, that feels a little bit more comfortable. And you're not necessarily attached to like one specific way to do it. And you can see how the form both looks and feels next to the piece. So if you're somebody who likes smaller, daintier handles, I'm like that. I like a 1 or 2 finger handle. You can see how that feels with a form next to it. If you like something a little bigger, so this would be more like a 3 finger handle, then you can see how that looks with that same form and how it would feel once you stick it on there. So I would just use today or whenever you get to this exercise to allow yourself to try new things. Once you've pulled your handles, depending on your environment at home, I would check in on them every 20 minutes or so just to see if they're firm enough to move. You're kind of looking for closer to this state where when you hold it, it's not gonna change its form. You're not gonna leave gloppy fingerprint marks, and you can still bend it and flex it to change it, and it's not gonna crack. This one, I pulled this handle yesterday evening and had some glitchy issues with my phone, and it's a little on the dry side, so if I bend and flex it, you probably can't see it very well, but it'll start to get these like stretch mark kind of looks to it. Let me see if I can get it. See, it starts to kind of have like a little crackle on there. So that's like pushing it. You might get some stress cracks if you were to bend and flex that too much. But I hope this has some helpful tips on how you might think about handles in the future, some tips to keep those handles nice and crisp and clean, in addition to getting them closer to matching the form and approaching it through almost like a sketchbook format. So once you do this exercise, I recommend taking photos or sketching out the 3D forms that you ended up playing with. So hope this is helpful. See you soon.